Hello, Aquarius, and welcome to your reading. My name is Nikita Antoine, and I am the Oracle of Natiru. All of my readings are timeless, so when the messages find you and resonate, then they are yours at the time in which you find them. There is a thread of fate, of course, that exists through all of my readings as well, so no matter the sign, all the readings are yours to witness and claim. Sorry, I'm getting a little hung up here on your message because it seems to be far bigger than, it just seems to be like a collective message, and I'm kind of curious if I think that it will play out differently in every Aquarian's life, but I find it very interesting that it is coming in through the Aquarius reading, the humanitarian of the zodiac. It's rather interesting. It's a bit strange, and there could be a lot of trigger points in here for some of us. So with that being said, I do want to note that there, like a disclaimer, if you will, we are going to be talking about plagues, and especially with what is going on right now in the world with the coronavirus. I know that that is a very sensitive topic for a lot of us to discuss. So I just want to put that out there before we get into this. And this is really interesting because in the Pisces reading, we were talking about, I don't know what, Pasteur was coming up and talking about breakthroughs with vaccines. And I don't know why I'm receiving all these messages. I guess like I'm just going to be the vessel that delivers it. So while I am honored, I know that this is a message that can be a little hard to, at least even for me, to grasp. So with that being said, I will try to kind of like put it into perspective of it dealing on like a personal basis, but it does feel far more collective than that. So without further ado, we are starting with okay, so they all want to be presented together. So we're starting with the Eight of Swords. Just put it a little closer so you can see. We're starting with the Eight of Swords, the Conqueror of Coins, and the Nine of Swords. So the Conqueror of Coins, I often talk about this particular card as being your book in the Akashic Records. Now, what is coming through, so it's playing like a double duty. It does want to be on an individual level, someone's Akashic their story, their tapestry of fate, their the things that they are going through in their timelines, right? But it's also playing a double duty of the collective of Earth's Akashic record. And what's happening here is that, so typically I see this book as it's opening up, and it's showing you the contents of your record, right? But in this, there is a it feels like it's not quite opening. It's almost like there's a lock on it, and the lock is being represented as the Eight of Swords and the Nine of Swords. So the Eight of Swords talks about entrapment, right? Entrapment of thoughts, actually, in particular. And then with the Nine of Swords, we're talking about, it's like overthinking, right? So it is all of this, and I want to call it like distortions of thoughts that keep the collective from unveiling the Akashic record of the entire collective of Earth, the Earth beings, as I like to call them. And it's basically, it's just talking about that there are things, because I'm being drawn to in this particular card, the Nine of Swords, being drawn to the roses that are in their eyes. And it brought to me like a vision of rose-colored glasses, and basically not wanting to see the reality of what is actually going down. And by not seeing the reality of what is happening, it keeps this feeling of entrapment like alive, like it, because this is of course on a mental basis, right? So we're talking about thoughts. So it's like not wanting to analyze thoughts and kind of just looking at everything through rose-colored glasses, and just not seeing the reality of the situations that are at hand. And that is what is preventing this book from opening. So, we're now in this point in time in which the book wants to be opened. And it's not that it's not that the book wants to be opened, it's that the universe wants to open the book for us, regardless of if we are prepared or not to see what is coming ahead. And what is coming ahead, and this came through very strongly as well. We have the Justice and the Magi. I don't know how to say that. Is it Magi or Magi? The Magi. And this came through as justice will be had, truth will be told. Essentially, the rose-colored glasses are going to be yanked off your face. Okay, so I want to say, this is me. I want to say that a lot of the messages that do come through, they have and I've noticed that other readers talk about this as well, but it is a very dramatic sense to get the message across. So while I may be talking very dramatic, it might not be playing out in your particular life this dramatically. But we're going to continue and talk about that justice will be had, and truth and clarity is going to be delivered on the new moon in Libra. This is the moon, right? And it's dark as well. So I don't even know when the new moon is. Perhaps it's going to be, because I upload these videos the day before I release them. So perhaps it will be on the day that I release it. But, so what's today's date? Today's the 13th. I'm really curious okay, I'm just going to move on. So, on the new moon in Libra, this is going to be revealed. Whatever is in this, this Akashic record is unveiled. The lock is no longer there anymore, and what is being presented is, of course, this this truth. And this, I have other magician cards in this deck, but this one in particular talks about, okay, so my other magician card talks about acquiring all of the ingredients necessary in order to manifest what you want. And in this Magi card, it talks about the manifestation actually coming and dropping into the real world. And it's being presented with the Six of Swords. And I found it extremely interesting that if we look at the Nine of Swords, it's the top half of a skull. And if we look at the Six of Swords, you'll see here that it is the bottom half of the skull, right? The jaw. So I'm seeing this as universal law, universal truth. Can you stop doing that? Sorry, my cat is eating my desk. Ma'at is delivering a truth. And it's almost, you know what? It feels like a decree. It's a decree. Some type of decree is going to be voiced, because I'm seeing this as, right, the top. Here, let me just present them together. The top and bottom of the skull. So it's being voiced out. It's being spoken over the collective of Earth. And what it is doing, I'll show you a little closer. In these cards, there, and the Six of Swords, there is a rose that is being clipped. And in the Nine of Swords, we were talking about how these rose-colored glasses, right, that are preventing us from seeing the true nature of what is happening around us. And it's basically talking about there's a decree that, yeah, the rose-colored glasses are coming off of our beautiful faces. So that is what's happening on this new moon of Libra. A decree over the collective of Earth. To remove our glasses so that we can actually set a new sight on something new, something brand new. I found it really, so it's the Two of Wands. And I thought it was pretty interesting that it actually didn't come out as the Ace of Wands, which talks about, you know, brand new, creative, passionate starts. It came out as the Two of Wands. And this Two of Wands, I see the Two of Wands as shaping your brand new reality. And of course, then the Three of Wands is kind of like sitting and then letting your visualization to come towards you. So this is talking about the vision of the new world. It's like in this removal of the rose-colored glasses, there's a shift into a new paradigm in which we're stepping in to a vision of the new world. And I'm so happy that this is coming through the Aquarius reading, because it's speaking of a new humanitarian perspective of the world. And it's followed by the Eight of Cups. The Eight of Cups, oh my goodness, this is amazing. So I'm just now noticing that at the very top of this Eight of Cups, we'll focus, is the moon. Right? Do you see? It's the exact same. And this is talking about our sight being restored. So it's speaking of letting go of emotions that no longer serve the new vision of this new paradigm that we are all jumping in together. And how those things, those types of emotions, it's really interesting, because today I was having a conversation about, I don't know if this is really having anything to do with it, but it just popped into my mind. Someone asked me, a long time ago, and it came through my meditation today. Someone asked me what my favorite color was. My favorite color is green. I see green as a growth, abundance, heart-centered. It's a very fruitful color for me. It feels very calm and healing. And I remember when I told this person what my favorite color was, they actually all of a sudden, without any explanation of mine to tell them why my favorite color is green, they immediately said that green is the color of greed and money, and how it's a terrible color because that's what it signifies. That's totally not true. But because it's a very one-sided, it's you know what it is? It's a closed, it's kind of like a closed-minded view on a color, on an aspect of a color's meaning. And the conversation that I had today with one of my friends about this, that happened like years ago, was talking about how money is not, like, it's a tool. It's not something it's not inherently good or bad. It's what we do with it that determines the meaning that is given to that. And why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because there are emotions, like denoting green being the color of greed, that need to be left behind. Hi, Harley. You want to come up? You can come up if you want. My baby Harley. And it's talking about that in this new world that we're being moved into. That's really interesting. We're being moved into it, not we are choosing to move into it. Right? Because it's a decree from justice, ma'at, right? The universal law. And it's talking about how those emotions need to be left behind, because they're not serving us. They only instill a... It's like, how could you not love the color green? The color, I mean, literally, you go out into nature, the green is the first color that you see, or at least for me, it's the first color that I see. And to denote it as something that is negative, I mean, I'm assuming that, well, and based off of the reaction, greed is a negative quality. It's like, so that then it puts an overlay over everything in which now that color only has one meaning. And that's not at all the case. Hi, Harley. You want to say hello? Watch out, baby. So, Harley wants us to move on from that. Come here, honey. And what's followed behind the Eight of Cups is actually the Death card. So we have Death. Harley, stop trying to hide the message from us. He just wants to be loving. Oh my gosh, he just really wants to be loving. So, I'm sorry. So we're talking about this transformation. We are transforming the emotions that are no longer needed into emotions of love. And he's purring like crazy. And I just like with the Magician card, Harley, I'm going to ask that you sit down. We have your message, my love. Thank you for joining us. So, just like with my Magician, I have other Death cards as well. My other Death card talks about mergers or separations. This one in particular talks about the glory and beauty of death, and how from the transformation of those feelings, new emotions can arise. Emotions that we've never seen before, emotions that have yet to be experienced, emotions that are more based in this intuitive realm with the high sage following. It's talking about, because I see this, I'm always drawn to the mushrooms that are growing on the skull, growing on this skull, the Nine of Swords, after these rose-colored glasses are removed. And the mushrooms, to me, talk about an interconnectedness. They talk about connectedness that is underneath the surface, below the surface. Because mushrooms span over like enormous areas, and they all talk to each other through their interconnectedness. So it's speaking about how we as a collective are coming into a new awareness of our interconnectedness in the psychic realm. So it's talking about even being like connected telepathically to people and being able to, I'm actually getting like how an empath does. Like how an empath can be in a space and be able to read the emotional happenings of what's going on in that space. It's like we're all becoming more empathic. But in order to become more empathic, there are, I'm pulling up judgments. It's really interesting because this justice also wants to be like judgment, like it wants to play double duty. It's the judgments that we have placed on others and things. I mean, even the color green, like just silly things that are blocking us from coming into this empathic awareness of our interconnectedness with others. And we're being encouraged with the release following, well, I mean, one, to release it all. But we're also being encouraged to take strides and leaps into, because before I was talking about how this is decreed and that we are being moved into this space. But that's not to say that we don't have free will. We can move into this space before sorry, I'm having a difficulty because because I know the sensitivity of the subject and I'm trying to I'm getting words and I don't want to use them because they seem very harsh. And it wants to be the happening. And if I'm not mistaken, there is a movie called The Happening in which the natural world unleashes it just wants to be plague. I'm seeing all the frogs jumping around like a plague, like the plague of Moses. Well, not the plague of Moses, but the plagues that happened in the story of Moses. It's really interesting because I have lots of connections with ancient Egypt, and that civilization broke because of, that's so funny. I love that we're going back to greed because of that. And that is what was decreed upon them were these plagues, right? And in that movie, The Happening, the natural world, if I'm not mistaken, it was the trees. Oh my God, I actually kind of love when this happens, when it all gets back. So the trees were like releasing something. I don't know what it was, but it was some type of agent that was killing. Well, not killing. Cleansing the earth. Because of all the harm that had been brought upon the earth by the collective, by the humanity. And this is talking about how we can either go through the plague and allow it to be cleansed and decreed by the universe, like a tower moment, if you will, or we can choose, I guess, if you want to say, the fool's route and jump into this new timeline. I'm seeing this frog jumping into a new pond. And we can choose for ourselves to jump into that new paradigm, right? Okay, so that's just the first two rows. All right, so, and then next, we're being told what we're jumping into, which I thoroughly appreciate, because like I kind of got like an issue with faith and stuff, so like it's a little hard to jump, especially being a Taurus. I like to know everything before I make my decision. And we're being told what we're moving into, so I love that. Okay, so we are moving into movement. I love this card. This is probably one of my favorite cards in this deck. This card talks about transmutating things through dance, through movement. It doesn't have to be dance. It could be even like in painting. I'm just seeing a lot of art that's happening. Art and culture, like a lot of art and culture happening. And it talks about through that movement, right? This egg here, this egg is birthed. So it's talking about like a new cosmic destiny, if you will. And that the shift, the movement that we make voluntarily into this new space is what brings about the Lovers, which is talking about less about love, like romantic love. It's talking more about harmony. And I say that because if you look really closely, hopefully it picks it up. I'm trying to get it to where I'll focus because I want you to see it. In one of the hands, there are the leaves of a rose, and in the other hand, there are the flowers of the rose. And I'm saying that it's talking about harmony because without the leaves, the plant would not be able to photosynthesize light in order to create its own food, which then produces the roses in order to attract pollinators to come to the rose, right? And like, I was going to say fertilize, but it's not really, it's pollinate, right? Pollinate and fertilize for the next generation. So we're talking about moving into a new harmonious state, and this is all below this new world. So we're talking about coming into a new harmonious state in order to prosper for the next generations to come. And what that's going to bring for us is this Get Wild card. So it's actually, it's coming across as a very instinctual and primal way of being. Not in a like a survival type where, you know, how's that saying go? Like where people are all on their own and they have to like survive for themselves. It's not talking about that. It's talking about living in a harmonious state in which our truest instincts can be birthed into this new reality. The true instincts of who we are as earth beings. And we are primal, right? We are one of the earth. We are, I often see this card as elusive and mysterious because it's ancient. So it wants to bring us back into this ancient way of harmony, of how each person plays a vital and key role in the establishment of society. And how that right now there is kind of this thing going on. This it actually wants to be like a pyramid scheme, where there is one at the top and then all the others are below. This is bringing me actually back to ancient Egypt, where the pharaoh was considered God and everybody was beneath him, right? The pharaoh's not God. Anyways, I'm not gonna broach that subject. So it's talking about coming back into a place in which it just wants to be leveled, and I'm really surprised that we didn't have the tower come out in this. I think because it didn't want to be too drastic, but it is talking about a leveling of not only of our old world, the foundation of our old world, but a leveling of each human in the world being equal. A more humanitarian approach to this new world. And then what we are seeing once we come into that ancient state of who we truly are, right? We're coming into a sharp truth, right? Well, like I was talking about the true state of who we are. We're coming into this sharp truth. I see the Conqueror of Swords as actually this mess that's happening up here is noise. It's this. Hang on. So it's this. It's the noise that exists in our minds that entrap us in this old dynamic, if you will. And with the sword, right, the sword of justice, she is spinning the sword. Like majority of the time I see this sword, and in this case it's spinning as well. She's spinning the sword, and it is pulling this nest, right? It's gathering it around the sword, and she's yanking it out of our thought space, our awareness, because it's not to be looked at anymore. Because we're looking in the wrong direction. So the sharp truth that is coming in is the difference between these two energies, love and the devil. Really interesting. We have apart from a couple other cards that do signify love, we have the Lovers and we have love here. So we are being shown look how there's the difference in color too. The cool tones versus the warm tones. Right? This is very cold and stark. This is warm and loving. This feels like a warm fire, sitting next to a warm fire. And we're being shown the difference between these two energies. This one here, I see as the love I see as, because these in the heart, there looks like, it looks like octopus tentacles. So I talk about it, exploring the bounds of love, and how love, in that exploration, you find that the boundaries of love do not exist. That it is actually boundless. It talks about unconditional love, right? Which would be a more humanitarian aspect of the new world, this new paradigm shift that we're moving into. And with this, the devil is talking about not being able to recognize what love actually is, and being, it wants to be like being, I was going to say tricked, but it's tricked and fooled into thinking that this energy could give you unconditional love. It's actually bringing me back to that, we were talking about greed earlier, and it's kind of like that whole notion of that money can't buy you love. It can only give you, it's very superficial. It feels very superficial. It doesn't have the depth. And because this is a very curious and explorative. I mean, the ocean. Okay, so the octopus. I mean, the depth. It is as deep as the ocean, and this is like a tide pool that is, left over after the tide comes in. It's far. It's far smaller. Like this is much more significant and fruitful, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. Whereas the devil energy's form of love is just going to be washed out with once the tide comes back in. So we have this opportunity to pick what we want. Well, we're being strongly encouraged to take the leap into this new paradigm, this new shift, so that this is a really tough message. I'm so sorry that I have to deliver this sharp truth to you guys, but I guess it is what it is. But we are being encouraged to jump into it before, I don't want to say this. I'm not going to frame it that way. It's not right. They want me to talk about the plague again, and I'm not. That's not. I'll just say that we are being given the option to go ahead and jump into this new paradigm. And if not, I'm not saying that that some of us will be jumping into it. We are all going to be jumping into this. However, we have the option to do it now, or we can prolong it and be in this energy, the Nine of Swords and the Eight of Swords energy, for longer than necessary. And so at the new moon in Libra, that's when this book opens. So you can choose to read it or not read it. It's your choice. But either way, the words will be delivered into your mind, whether you like it or not. I guess is what Ma'at is saying. So with that being said, I thank you Aquarius, for allowing me to deliver this message through your sign. It means a lot. And if you are interested in the extended, you can find that in the description box. Yeah, so lots of love to you guys. I love you forever and ever. I'll see you next time. Bye.